Imagine someone is in a situation where to acquire their favorite food, they had to torture this puppy. This is a point that Alastair Norcross makes in his argument against factory farming. This is my dog, Scruffy. He's about 11 years old now, and I've had him since he was about 1. Hi, my name's Kevin, and I'll explain to you Alastair Norcross's argument that factory farming is immoral and should not be used in our world. I will explain that Norcross claims that if it is wrong to torture one animal for gustatory pleasure, then it is wrong to torture any animal for gustatory pleasure. In doing this, I will bring up Norcross's Fred thought experiment, his argument, the causal impotence objection, and the rationality gambit. To start, Norcross makes the argument against factory farming, obviously. He explains that if a person tortures a puppy, then it's morally wrong, just like the point that we brought up here with my dog. In doing this, he brings up the Fred thought experiment, which is an experiment introduced by him at the beginning of his paper. A man named Fred has been torturing puppies to obtain chocolate, cocamone, which is a hormone that is found in the puppies that he's torturing. Fred brutally tortures these puppies in his basement. Obviously, everybody agrees that this is wrong. The public in the story are completely mortified, and they're calling Fred a sick and twisted sadist. He's charged with animal cruelty. Fred goes to court, and his story is explained that in the puppy, he was in an accident, and there was head trauma caused to him. And the hormone cocamone, which is responsible for obtaining the taste of chocolate, was lost, and he found out that the puppies held this, and if he were to torture these puppies, he would be able to get the cocamone taste and be able to obtain it through them. Norcross argues that Fred's behavior is similar to that of factory farming, and when thinking about factory farming in this sense, most people would agree that it would be wrong to torture the animals to simply obtain this gustatory pleasure. According to the Humane League, they explain that factory farms are tortured due to the quarters that animals are left in and how terrible they make them live. Also, the Sentience Institute explains that factory farming is very similar to that of the Fred thought experiment with the puppies. So obviously we would all agree that this is wrong to do, and it's just cruel. And this will take us to Norcross's argument. Norcross explains that if it's wrong to harm a puppy for gustatory pleasure, then it is wrong to harm any animals for our gustatory pleasure. Factory farms do harm animals for our own gustatory pleasure. The factory farms hold these animals in the tight quarters and kill them. Nobody really disagrees with this in all the philosopher arguments that we read. According to the Humane League, animals are extremely confined in their farms and the factory farms cause a lot of harm and stress towards them. The factory farms causing this harm towards the animals would then make them immoral, according to Norcross, because we're using the factory farms to harm animals for our own good. Norcross says that we should not support something that is immoral and harms animals, so we should not support factory farming. This all lines up and makes sense. After going through Norcross's argument, we come to the causal impotence objection, which Norcross explains as things will still happen regardless of what we do. Basically, like, if I were to stop eating meat, it really wouldn't make that much of a difference at the end of the day because it's just me. not eating the meat. It's not going to change what my neighbor is doing or what somebody all across the country is doing. People in our world today are still eating meat anyway, regardless of what Norcross is saying or what other people are saying. We all know about factory farming, obviously. We know that it's going on and it's not changing anything that we do. So that's basically what the causal impotence objection says. According to the Humane League, animals are still being harmed and kept in these factories regardless of what people are attempting to do. Still, 99% of animals are farmed in factory farms. It's a huge number, and obviously, one person isn't really going to change how much, how many animals are in those farms. This is all what the causal impotence objection is saying. Norcross goes on to say that we can still do something about this. Every little thing that we do can have an impact. If one person decides they're going to stop eating meat, then it could cause a domino effect, and then the factory farms would be harmed and there would be less people buying their food and stuff from them. And we could always do, I'm not sure, but there's probably other ways to get around it, but maybe not, because 99%. But this is what Norcross goes through and says, and then he comes around and says the factory farming is still in fact immoral. It doesn't matter that 99% of our food comes from there. It's still not a good thing, and it's still immoral, and we have we shouldn't be doing it because it's immoral. And this brings us to the rationality gambit. It's another explanation against Norcross's beliefs. It explains that puppies are more rational than farm animals, and because of that, we must give them a more moral value and consideration. Norcross, or the argument against Norcross, is that puppies are more rational than farm animals. For example, pigs, cows, horses, chickens. We don't really eat horses, but the other three we do. So puppies would deserve a more moral consideration than these animals. But at the end of the day, this is essentially a cultural thing, and the way that I look at the cows, pigs, and chickens might be different from the way that somebody across the world looks at them, and the way that I look at a puppy. I have another picture of me and my dog here. I obviously look at my puppy Scruffy in a completely different way than somebody else around the world and in a different culture might. We can also argue that farm animals are rational in a certain sense. We are the ones that kind of come up with this rational thing, and we figure that out. So we also have to think about mentally disabled people and how we give them moral consideration and think about the rationality of them. In conclusion, Norcross argues that factory farming is never moral and all should turn away from meat and eating animals that are factory farmed. We should give the same moral consideration to those cows, pigs, and chickens and factory farmed animals as we do to puppies and other pets that we keep. We should never use animals for our own gustatory pleasure because they are rational beings and moral beings according to Norcross. Factory farming is a major issue to him, and it's something that we need to do something about. Imagine harming, and to come back and conclude, imagine harming a little puppy, baby, or even a person with a puppy like this one, my dog again. I brought 3 pictures. Imagine harming a little puppy, baby, or mentally disabled person for your own pleasure. Why should we do this to any other animals? And that's Alastair Norcross's argument against factory farming.